Thank you for joining Wars of the Roses. And this is Maryland from the Encyclopedia of Freemasonry by Albert G. Mackey. Maryland. Freemasonry was introduced into Maryland in 1750 by the Provincial Grand Lodge of Massachusetts, which issued a charter for the establishment of a lodge at Annapolis. 5 other lodges were subsequently chartered by the Provincial Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, and one in 1765 at Joppa by the Grand Lodge of England. On the 31st of July, 1783, these 5 lodges held a convention at Talbot Court House and informally organized a Grand Lodge. But as the lodge at Annapolis had taken no part in this movement, another convention of all the lodges was held at Baltimore on the 17th of April, 1787, and the Grand Lodge of Maryland was duly organized, John Coates being elected the Grand Master. The Grand Chapter was established in 1812. There are no known records from the earliest lodge in Maryland, but a reference to it among the documents of the Grand Lodge of Massachusetts states that it was chartered by Thomas Oxnard, Provincial Grand Master, on August 12, 1750, at Annapolis. On June 17, 1783, the lodges on the Eastern Shore met at Talbot Court House and determined to petition the Grand Lodge in Philadelphia for a warrant to open the Grand Lodge of Maryland. 5 lodges were represented by deputies, and the meeting was adjourned until July 31st. On that date, the same lodges attended, with the exception of number 37 of Somerset County, which was not represented, and number 6 of Georgetown, which appeared for the first time. Grand officers were elected, and the meeting was adjourned until December 18, 1783. The next meeting was not until nearly 3 years later, but the subordinate lodges maintained their allegiance and were not represented at any other Grand Lodge. Royal Arch chapters were probably attached to most of the lodges in Maryland, but the first known was Washington, chapter instituted in 1787 by warrant of Lodge number 7 at Chestertown, and attached to Lodge number 15, afterwards Washington number 3. The first independent Grand Chapter in the United States was organized on June 24, 1897. It became inactive in 1803, but was revived in 1807 when a convention was held in the city of Washington on January 21st of representatives of Washington, Concordia, St. John's, Federal, Washington Naval, and Potomac chapters. It was resolved unanimously to organize a Grand Chapter for the state of Maryland and the District of Columbia, and this was opened in ample form. On May 9, 1814, chapters numbers 1, 2, and 3 met at Baltimore, adopted a constitution, and elected grand officers. On August 30, 1822, by the authority of the General Grand Chapter, the chapters in the District of Columbia, with the exception of Potomac number 8 at Georgetown, withdrew from the jurisdiction of Maryland. For the next 20 years, these Columbia chapters had no grand authority. From 1841 until May 7, 1867, they were put under the control of the Grand Chapter of Maryland. On that date, the Grand Chapter of the District of Columbus was duly constituted. Until 1872, the select degrees were conferred by chapters, but in that year the Grand Chapter made this illegal, and independent councils were formed. 6 of these councils, Concordia, Jerusalem, Adoniram, Salem, Tadmor, and Druid, were represented at a convention which met on May 12, 1874, at Baltimore to organize a Grand Council. The first commandery was Maryland number 1 at Baltimore, to which a charter of recognition was issued on May 2, 1814, admitting the year 1790 to be the date of the complete organization of the encampment. It was resolved on July 12, 1870, to organize a Grand Commandery for the state. Delegates from Maryland number 1, Baltimore number 2, and Monumental number 3 met in Baltimore, Maryland on December 12, 1870 for this purpose. A warrant was issued by the Grand Master dated January 3, 1871, and on January 23, the Grand Commandery was dedicated in ancient form to St. John the Almoner. A Lodge of Perfection was established at Baltimore in 1792 by Henry Wilmans, Master of Concordia Lodge, in 1793. On December 9, 1882, the Meredith chapter of Rose Croix No. 1 and the Maryland Council of Kadosh No. 1 were constituted, and on May 15, 1885, the Chesapeake Consistory No. 1 was opened under the Supreme Council, Southern Jurisdiction. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe and comment, and if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Roses. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.